To solve this rational equation, I'm going to begin by multiplying each individual piece by the least common denominator. Multiplying the numerators of this equation by the least common denominator will have the effect of eliminating the fractions for me and making a much easier, hopefully much easier, problem to solve. So a couple things I might do though before I even find the LCD. I'm going to make that 1 over 1 just to remind myself that that's a fraction and remind myself that the numerator needs to be multiplied. I also don't like subtracting. Sometimes I forget to distribute the negative sign. So I'm going to make this plus a negative 8. Just a couple tips I would recommend. So building my least common denominator, I see that I'm going to need an x, and I'm going to need an x minus 5. If you need help building the LCD, go back and watch one of my previous videos. So what I'm going to do now is multiply the numerators only by that LCD. Every single numerator in this problem on both sides will get multiplied by that. It'll have the effect of eliminating the denominators, eliminating the fractions. So let's multiply everything, including that 1, times my LCD x minus 5. So if I start from the right and kind of work backwards, here's what I mean by eliminating the fractions. There's an x in the top and bottom being multiplied right there. So those will get eliminated and cancel out the denominators. What's left then is 3 times x minus 5, so I'll get 3x minus 15 when I distribute. That middle piece, there's an x minus 5 in the top and the bottom, so those pieces will get eliminated and leave behind just negative 8x, negative 8 times x. And finally, nothing gets eliminated in that first piece, but that's okay. Nothing cancels out. But remember, it wasn't really even a fraction to begin with. It was just 1 over, and we made it over 1 just to remember to multiply there. So all I need to do is multiply 1x times x minus 5, so I'll distribute and get x squared, minus 5x. And so I said we would hopefully end up with something easier to solve. And I guess this is easier in the sense of it's no longer rational, there's no fractions in it, but it is quadratic. There is something with an x squared in it. But that's okay, we can work this out. So let's go ahead and simplify this just a little bit. I'm going to have x squared minus 13x, I'll combine like terms, and then equals 3x minus 15. Hopefully you recall that to solve something that's quadratic, we need it to be equal to 0. So let's go ahead and move everything to one side of the equation. So I'm going to get x squared minus 16x and then plus 15 equals 0. At this point you have a couple options. You can use the quadratic formula if you'd like to. Otherwise, many of these can be factored, and I'd prefer you try to factor this just to keep working on that skill. So two numbers that multiply to 15 but add up to negative 16 are going to be negative 1 and negative 15. Which means my two possible solutions, if you recall, were going to be x equals 1, because remember we said x minus 1 has to equal 0. Why am I telling you this? You should just go back and watch a video if you need a refresher on this. But I end up with two possible answers of positive 1 and positive 15. Remember, before you circle either one of those answers, you should see if either of them would be extraneous, if either of them would result in dividing by 0. So go back and look at the original problem. There was a denominator that said x minus 5, and there was a denominator that said x. Would plugging in either 1 or 15 into either of those spots result in a 0? And the answer is no. So in this case, both of these answers are a-okay. X could be 15 or x could be 1.